fifth graders, welcome to lesson 11.7, Numerical Relationships. Let's get started. Today's objective is I can analyze number sequences by looking for relationships between two sets of data with 100% accuracy in multiple attempts. Please pause now to write the I can and by statement in your digital math notebook. All right, fifth graders, we have already talked a little bit about numerical patterns, as well as input and output tables. Let's dive a little deeper. On the left-hand side, we're going to talk about additive patterns. An additive pattern is a rule or pattern that adds a number to the input, which is our x, to get our output, which is y. We know that an additive pattern is happening when we are increasing by the same adding pattern each time. On the right-hand side, it says we have a multiplicative pattern. A multiplicative pattern is a rule or pattern that multiplies the input, x, by another number to get the output, which we call y. So let's look at this pattern below and see if we can figure out whether it is additive or multiplicative. So we have 0 and 0. Well, let's see. I could say 0 plus 0. Let's see if that applies to our next one. If I say 3 plus 0, nope, that doesn't work. So let's look at our other patterns and see how they relate. I have a 3 and a 21. In order to get from 3 to 21, let's see, I could subtract 21 minus 3 and see what that gets me. That gives me 18, but from 6 to 42 isn't 18. But I do notice that on the y column, those numbers look like multiples of 7. So maybe is my rule 0 times 7, that gives me 0. 3 times 7, that gives me 21. Ooh, 6 times 7, that's 42. So my rule must be to multiply. So my rule is times 7, which means it is a multiplicative rule. Because every time I'm multiplying by 7. Let's try a problem together. All right, friends, we're in your digital math notebook, and you can solve this problem along with me. The question says, which rule describes the pattern in the table? So we have an input and an output, which they're calling R and Q instead of X and Y, but it functions the same way. So I put in R and I get out Q. So from 2 to 12, let's see, I could add 10 or I could multiply by 6. From 3 to 18, my add 10 rule doesn't work anymore. Let's see, but my times 6 rule still works. So remember that we always want to check our rules with a couple different terms of our pattern to make sure it works. Let's go over and look at the multiple choice to see what our options are. The first one says that Q equals R 6, which means that R and 6, since they're touching like that, are being multiplied together. B says that R equals 6 times Q. Now, these two look similar, but the Q and the R are backwards, so think about which one we're going to multiply. C says Q equals 6 plus R. We know that we're not adding. And D is also adding, so it's not D. So we need to decide whether it's A or B. So let's think about whether we're multiplying 6 by R or 6 by Q. So if we look over here, R, So if we say 2 times 6, we're going to get 12. But it's not 12 times 6 equals 2. That wouldn't be right. So our answer has to be A. All right, friends, time for the lesson activity. In the lesson activity, we are asked which rule describes the pattern. We have an input of X and an output of Y. Let's look at our pattern to see what's happening. It looks like our pattern is decreasing. We're going from 7 down to 2, from 8 down to 3, from 9 down to 4. So we're going to be decreasing. So I know that it can't be A and it can't be B because both of those are increasing because they have adding signs. We must be subtracting. So let's see. We have X, which is our 7. 7 minus, our rule looks like it's going to be a 5. Does that equal 2? Yes, it does. So we need the pattern where X comes first. So your job in your digital math notebook, I just gave you the hint, is to say whether the answer is C or D in your digital math notebook. Great job, 5th graders. You're almost finished. When you feel comfortable with this lesson and your digital math notebook is complete, then complete your exit slip to show your teacher your understanding. Great job!